Welcome to the Historical Images channel. Subscribe to the channel to not miss new videos. Enjoy watching. Anatoly Moskvin is a Russian former journalist, college professor, and self-dubbed necropolist with expert knowledge of cemeteries. For years, his hobby of collecting dolls hid a macabre obsession that drew upon his particular interests, digging up the dead and making dolls out of their corpses. After making his human dolls, he kept them in his home as his companions and lovers. Police finally caught Moskvin in 2011, after years of increasing suspicion at the growing number of desecrated graves in his home city of Nizhny Novgorod. When they searched his home, they found 26 life-size dolls, or rather, mummified corpses, scattered throughout. Known as the Pioneer's Defense, this creepy historical image was captured in 1937 by Russian photographer Viktor Bulla. While certainly an ominous sight, the men, women, and children depicted here were merely members of the Young Pioneers, the Soviet youth group that was akin to the Boy Scouts. They're seen here donning gas masks during a military preparation drill in the Leningrad area, uncertain of what tomorrow might bring in the years just before the World War II, while their home country was seeing waves of death and terror under dictator Joseph Stalin. Though its story remains lesser known, the hotel that inspired The Shining is just as chilling as its fictional counterpart. Long before his stay at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado prompted author Stephen King to write The Shining, this Rocky Mountain lodge was leaving its visitors terrified. Seen here under construction in the early 1900s, the hotel was home to an unexplained explosion in 1911 that left a chambermaid maimed. She returned to work, but after her death years later, guests reported seeing her ghost stalk the halls, especially the scene of the incident in room 217. This was the exact room where King spent his fateful and terrifying night at the Stanley in October 1974. Captured inside the Amityville horror house in 1976, this creepy vintage photo remains one of the most chilling paranormal images of all time. After the DeFeo murders, the house's next owner, George Lutz, claimed that the home was haunted and called in famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren to help. One night, the automatic camera they'd set up on the second floor caught what appeared to be a ghostly boy staring back. Some believe it is the ghost of young John DeFeo, who was murdered in the house by his brother years earlier. This 1883 mugshot of Pete Spence is the only known photo of this Old West outlaw who terrorized Arizona alongside the infamous Frank and Tom McLaury. Already a known thief, Spence became the prime suspect in the 1882 murder of Morgan Earp, brother of legendary lawman Wyatt Earp. But there was only one witness, Spence's own wife. The judge decided to rule her testimony inadmissible due to spousal privilege, despite the fact she claimed to have heard Spence plotting the murder with several friends. However, a year later he was arrested for pistol whipping and killing a man. He served only 18 months of a 5-year sentence, as the governor decided to pardon him. Captured on the morning of August 3, 1952, this creepy photo appears to show 4 unidentified flying objects hovering across the skies of Salem, Massachusetts. We know that the photographer's name was Shel Alpert, that it was taken at Salem's Coast Guard Air Station, and that the objects were spotted above the Winter Island and Cat Cove areas. But little else is known about this bizarre image. Some have claimed that the lights are simply reflections in the window through which it was taken. Others point to incidents throughout the 1950s in which supposedly similar crafts were seen, but the truth will likely remain a mystery forever. Anaisa Michelle was a devout Catholic teenager living a normal life with her parents in Germany in the late 1960s. But then she began blacking out at school before exhibiting increasingly strange behaviors, like routinely convulsing, hallucinating, eating spiders, and even drinking her own urine. Michelle claimed to be possessed by the devil, and her parents soon came to the same conclusion. They ultimately subjected her to 67 exorcisms, none of which improved her condition before she died of malnutrition at age 23 in 1976, weighing just 68 pounds. Her story was so disturbing that it eventually inspired the 2005 horror film, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. On April 1st, 1946, an 8.6 magnitude earthquake off the coast of the Aleutian Islands in Alaska sent shockwaves throughout the Pacific. An ocean-wide tsunami quickly began to form, causing waves to reach as high as 13 stories. Soon, the tsunami struck Hilo, Hawaii, leaving more than 170 people dead in what remains one of the worst disasters in Hawaiian history. This chilling image captures the final moments of the unknown person at the bottom left. When Mount St Helens erupted in Washington on May 18, 1980, photographer Robert Landsberg was within a few miles of the volcano, and he knew there was no way out. Aware that any escape attempt would be futile, he stayed in the thick of the action and took as many pictures as he could before securing his camera in his backpack. As the ash grew thicker, Landsberg covered the backpack with his body, determined to ensure that his images would survive, even though he knew he wouldn't. This expressionless waxwork dummy, flanked by 2 student nurses in training, was captured by photographer Anthony Armstrong Jones in 1968 for his book Assignments. There's no ominous story behind this photo, but it's certainly one of the creepiest vintage pictures of the 20th century. Armstrong Jones, meanwhile, went on to have enormous personal and professional success. His photography captured the imagination of millions, while he himself captured the heart of Princess Margaret and became the first Earl of Snowdon after they married in 1960. From doll masks to decorated bags over heads to specially crafted outfits, these fascinating and nightmarish photos capture random people donning their Halloween costumes. It has to be said that these vintage photos were taken using much less sensitive cameras, so the pictures look already gloomy and eerie, regardless of the content. Halloween, contraction of All Hallows' Eve, marks the day before the Western Christian Feast of All Saints and initiates the season of All Hallowtide, which lasts 3 days and concludes with All Souls' Day. In much of Europe and most of North America, observance of Halloween is largely non-religious. Halloween is celebrated on October 31st. While countless attempts at traversing Niagara Falls have been made over the years, Robert Overaker had an admirable reason for attempting his crossing: to raise awareness for the homeless. Unfortunately, his October 1995 attempt didn't go as planned. Overaker planned to ride through the water on a jet ski and then open the parachute on his back as he went over the edge and let his vehicle plummet down into the river below the falls. But when his parachute failed to open, it was the 39-year-old Californian who fell 180 feet to his demise. Hundreds of young girls and women who worked in American watch factories during the 1920s were exposed to so much radium that they came home glowing in the dark. The prolonged exposure to radium, used in the luminous paint that coated the watch faces, caused their vertebrae to collapse, their jaws to swell up and fall off, and their lives to slowly end in agony while battling cancer. Let's delve into the world of cuteness and childhood innocence, shall we? This screenshot from the teddy bears takes us back to 1907, when cuddly teddy bears were all the rage. In this black and white image, we see a group of adorable teddy bears lined up on a shelf, their button eyes staring out at us with an uncanny charm. It's a snapshot of a simpler time, when the world was captivated by these furry companions. On that fateful day in history, Ford's Theater became the stage for one of the most tragic events in American history. The day after John Wilkes Booth assassinated President Abraham Lincoln, this photograph captures the eerie aftermath. The sign advertising the play, The Octoroon, is a chilling reminder of the normalcy that was shattered. The black mourning crepe draped over the entrance only adds to the somber atmosphere. It's a haunting image that transports us back to a time of grief and turmoil and serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the profound impact of one single act. On 23 November 1961, the world was captivated by the shocking story of Terry Jo Dupo. Aged just 11 at the time, Terry Jo survived a horrific ordeal at sea that claimed the lives of her family members. Found adrift on a small life raft in the Atlantic Ocean, she clung to hope amidst the wreckage. The haunting photograph captures Terry Jo in hospital, holding a photograph of Captain Theo, the man who rescued her. It serves as a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring strength of a young girl who triumphed over tragedy.